Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Bad Movie Night. My name's Chris, and tonight I checked out that new Neil Marshall movie. I was hopeful, so hopeful going into this. I know Neil Marshall has a bit of a spotty track record recently with the Hellboy movie, which I did see, was ultimately not impressed with. I know that there was production, producers interference and all that kind of stuff. Lots of issues with that movie. So I was hopeful this was going to be a return to form for Neil Marshall. Dog Soldiers, The Descent, two really great small-scale horror movies. I even like his other movies, Centurion and Doomsday. In their own ways, I enjoy them quite a bit. But this one seems to be not that great. It's really not that great. So the movie stars Charlotte Kirk, and it's about her in the late 1600s. Her husband has just died of the plague, and she gets kind of into a scuffle with the landowner guy who has some power in this town. She accuses her of being a witch, and then she gets put on trial and tortured, and hijinks ensue. And it's important to note, I said Charlotte Kirk, she also helped write this movie. I know there was news stories. I don't want to get into the off-screen bullshit, but I saw there was weird news stories about her and Neil Marshall. I know they're either engaged or something, but it's important to this movie, it feels like to me, because this very much feels like a vehicle for her, to its detriment. Sure, she's the lead actress. Don't mean it that way. I mean it it's supposed to be the 1600s, and this woman has been degraded, beaten, tortured, defiled, just run through the mill. She's been kept awake for days. But my God, I've never looked that good in my life. She looks impeccable throughout, and it is to a detriment to the movie because it takes you out of it at every moment. She looks like she just had her hair done at the fucking salon, and her eyebrows are the best thing I've ever seen in my life. And keeps hammering home this point about toxic masculinity in a way, and every single man in this movie, except for two of the characters, are just the worst awful men you've ever seen in your life. They're caricatures of evil people. But pretty much everyone in this movie is extremely shallow. They're either good or evil. There's no gray area in between that. Charlotte's character, while looking impeccable throughout the movie, is infallible in every way as well. She's perfect. She's morally good at all moments. She's also strong in her convictions from the beginning. So there's no arc here. Sure, it's a woman who has been beaten and defiled and put down and taken, against her will, right? But her inner strength was always there. She always fought back. It's just she was overcome. So then you're just a movie that just kind of has this woman being tortured for an hour to reveal that she's still actually kind of the strong person she was at the beginning, and maybe she'll get out of it alive. I don't get the point. I don't get the theme they're looking for here. It's not like her becoming empowered. It's just her trying to get out of this terrible scenario, which I guess could be entertaining if the plot points were fun, but it's not. It's repetitive. It's this woman being put in this cell, and then you go through the days where she gets brought out into this room and they have a new torture device. They talk about the torture device so that the viewer understands what they're going to do. They give you a hint of what they're going to do, and it cuts. And then the rest of the movie is filled with her having these dreamlike hallucinations of the devil kind of fornicating with her, or her having romantic candle-lit sex with her dead husband. And neither of those things are really that important when you boil it down. I get the catalyst for the movie is her husband dying and her kind of struggling on her own because they were relying on his money and his whatever work he was doing to provide for the family. And she doesn't have that anymore. And she misses him. So I get the dreams about that when you're stuck in this cell. But then they throw in these hallucinatory things with these demons and these monsters, and it looks like the devil. And it's supposed to make you think, well, maybe she's a witch, right? I think that's what they're going for. It's not clear. It never comes up. I think really the point is we can put this footage in the trailer and give people a different idea of what the movie is, maybe. I don't know. Well, let's talk about Neil Marshall. The Descent one of my top, I don't know, top 10, top 20 horror movies of all time. The movie is so effective. I'm claustrophobic, and it captures that feel so good. It makes me so uncomfortable. And then to throw the monster thing on top as well, such a great movie. It really understood the horror genre in a way to scare you. Dog Soldiers is a great mix of action and werewolf, where the werewolves are scary as well. So like the understanding of horror and what works seemed to be some bread and butter of Neil Marshall. And this movie, it doesn't. There's no real tension. There's no real scares or anything like that. Like I said, the monstrous visuals you get are hallucinatory and kind of pointless. There's a musical score that is thick and just suffocates this movie in a way where it makes it you want to feel something simply because the strings are sad and playing these minor notes, but it's like not really backing up the feeling you get when you're watching it, so it feels inauthentic. It feels melodramatic a lot of times for me, and it's overbearing, I think. Our villain is played by Sean Pertwee, who is definitely giving it his all. He is a good actor. He's trying in this movie. Unfortunately, his existence in this movie is like a contrivance to the plot, where it's just somehow supposed to relate back to our main character in such a convenient way that's frustrating, and it makes it unsurprising of where the movie's gonna go. There's also no layers to his character. Like, he's a man, I guess, who's supposed to be strong in his convictions, but he's also just kind of evil. And that's how every guy in this movie is, except for two characters. Her husband, who's dead, who's just shown in flashbacks as like the most beautiful, handsome man running around in what looks like romance book covers. And then there's this young servant boy who's good because he does good things, and he only serves to help with plot points when necessary. I understand the movie's about all the women that kind of suffered during these stupid witch trials, and yes, they're heinous and ridiculous. But I don't know what you're trying to say. Is it trying to say that these things were stupid and heinous and dumb and ridiculous? Well, of course they were. Any rational person nowadays would agree with you. It doesn't really need to be said, in my opinion. But there is something you could do to kind of link it back to contemporary themes. I thought that's maybe what they were trying to do with the Me Too movement and all these disgusting men and everybody sexualizing her. There is something there. It's just they never said anything about it. Every person, like I said, comments about how beautiful she is. And you know what? So does the movie, though. And that's what's frustrating. She's so ridiculously perfect in a world where everyone is dirty and gross and disgusting. And even after everything, she still looks better than I ever could. And she just got beaten for 3 days and hasn't slept in 3 days. And all these terrible things done to her. And her hair is better than anything I've ever seen in my life. It kind of hurts the whole fucking point of the movie, I think. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being too critical of it. It was just kind of frustrating. So ultimately, I was very disappointed by this. It doesn't really feel like a Neil Marshall movie. A lot of Neil Marshall movies have really quick cuts, so there is some of that in this. But it feels generic in a way. And it feels cheap and pointless and unsurprising. And just kind of a waste of time, honestly. So I don't know what's going on with Neil Marshall. I did hear him talk about something about Dog Soldiers 2, which, if you asked me a few years ago, would I be interested in that? Probably. Now, I don't know. I don't know. It would have to be something I would think about, and I will think on it strongly. What am I talking about? Of course I'd see it, but I don't know if I'd be excited for it. So that's going to do it for The Reckoning. If you liked it, let me know what you think, and then let me know what I should be watching, and I will catch you here next time. Goodbye.